Welcome to the Design Edition, the second of 4 exclusive UK launch shows celebrating the 2014 release of the Creative Cloud.
We're here at the Village Underground in Shoreditch, and joining us shortly will be some of the Adobe Worldwide Evangelists, as well as a luminary speaker from international creative agency Imagination.
All of whom will be sharing some insights and sources of inspiration behind the scenes up here in the Tube. This is Adobe's biggest creative release since CS6, and to celebrate we've got a real mix of content to get your creativity going, as well as tons of hands-on Creative Cloud design product demonstrations. You can join the conversation on Twitter by using the hashtag #CreateNow. But before we launch into all of that, let's take a look at the fantastic prizes up for grabs in the 2014 Creative Cloud competition. Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch, with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Photolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the hashtag #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.
Here's what's coming up in the show. There will be presentations and Tube insights from our Adobe Evangelists, Rufus, Michael and Jason. Matthew Maxwell, our luminary speaker from creative agency Imagination, will be sharing some insights from his latest projects. And we'll also have plenty of Creative Cloud design product demonstrations with the latest and greatest creative features and workflow enhancements, as well as some behind-the-scenes Tube insights. So without further ado, let's get the design show underway. Over to Lucy on the main stage.
So now, for some of the latest enhancements and new features from Adobe Muse, InDesign and Illustrator, please welcome back to the stage, he can't get enough, Adobe Evangelist, Rufus Deutschler.
Thank you. All right, well, my next 15 minutes, I'm going to be talking about what's new in this 2014 release of Creative Cloud as far as designers are concerned. I'm going to start with Adobe Muse. How many of you use Adobe Muse? Okay, that must be much more, because Adobe Muse is really the simplest way for print designers like me, or any designer, photographer, or person that's not into coding, to actually create a website. And what's really nice with this new version of Adobe Muse is that we've moved away from the app that we had in the past, which was based on Adobe Air, which had its limitations. We've actually created a brand new native 64-bit app that works on the Mac and on Windows, of course. And that makes the app much snappier and easier to use. Basically, Adobe Muse is made in such a way so that it feels familiar. So for example, it's just like a layout program. I can start building my website by adding pages, by deciding the structure. Even before I start designing the content for it, I can even create master pages. And then I would go into design mode, for example, and start laying things out, but just by dragging and dropping text and images, like we know in InDesign. As a matter of fact, at the beginning of Adobe Muse, we used a whole bunch of engineers from the InDesign team to come over to help make the app feel like a layout program. And what Adobe Muse does, I'm going to go to preview very quickly here. I'm going to preview that page in the browser. What it does, it creates the code in the background. In Adobe Muse, there is no code view. I will never have to see the code. Muse creates it in the background, and then I have my web page ready to be used. And here I used an animation created with Animate. And for example, I can use scroll motion effects. When I scroll down the page, I can make elements move at various speeds. You see, left and right and top to bottom. I can even create complex layouts with images and text and use the typography that I want to use, just like a designer would want to do. Use their own things without having necessarily to go into the details of how these things actually work. So it's very, very easy to use. And what Muse also has, it has a whole structure of elements that you can already use. And these we call the widgets. And they're found in the widgets library. And here I have a whole series of buttons, for example, or compositions for image galleries, for slideshows. Simply dragging and dropping these elements on the page is enough. And then I tell where the images are. Muse optimizes the images for the web, and I'm good to go. And in this new release, we've also added something called the assets library. Basically, no, the library here, in the library. Basically, what I can do there is take elements from my Muse website, put them in the library, and use them in other websites that I'm creating. And even more interesting is that I can find more library items online. So what we've created is a whole marketplace. Let me bring you to the Adobe add-ons page, where people can feature and share their widgets, their templates, their work that they've done with Adobe Muse. And I said it's a marketplace because I can also sell stuff on it. So we've really created a way for creatives to work with other creatives, sharing their technology and widgets and templates. And some of them are free, and some of them have a cost. Okay, so it's a new market that any one of us can actually leverage. And we have add-ons for Photoshop, for InDesign, for Illustrator, for all of the applications inside of that marketplace. So very, very interesting new way to work with other people and share our knowledge. The other thing that is interesting in Adobe Muse is that I have various ways of publishing the website. So of course, the easiest one is to press this button up here that says Publish. And that publishes the website to our Business Catalyst servers, where the website will be live in seconds. Okay? It uploads everything, and the website will be there. And as a Creative Cloud member, you actually have included in your membership 5 hosted websites, full websites that you can leverage. You can put your website on there, or for your customer's website, and then change the name. You know, if you buy a name for Rufus.com, you can change that there as well. You can do 5 of those. But you can create as many test websites as you want. So as you work on your different projects, you can simply upload them to Business Catalyst to show them to your customers, and after 30 days, they will expire, but if you make a change, it will last another 30 days. So it's a pretty good way of showing work in progress. And publishing also means that I can upload to any FTP host that I want. Because there are some things that we make work first on Business Catalyst. For example, the forms used to work first on Business Catalyst and not on other servers. Now they work with other hosts as well. The November release of Muse introduced a thing called in-browser editing, which allows me to give access to the website to other people, and to actually give them possibility to make corrections, change the images and things like that. And with a 2014 release, we've made that available for any type of hosting. So remember, you can either upload to any FTP host that you want, or use your Business Catalyst connection right here in Adobe Muse. Now, when I publish the website, this is the page that I see. I have the administration page, where I see how many people have visited the page. I have some sort of analytics there. But the interesting thing that I wanted to show you is this edit function. And basically what this does, it shows me the whole website as it is in the browser. So my customer doesn't even need Muse to do the corrections. I can then hover over the text and say, oh, no, that's not June. This is July. Okay, so the customer can do that update without me, the designer, having to be bothered to actually receive that call and make that simple correction. And I can even go in here and say, okay, this image here is wrong. Let's edit that one. Muse will show me all of the images that are already in the image folder on the server. So I can say, okay, this is the new image, and update that. And really, with a simple operation, anybody that you authorize can actually make changes on the website and then publish those. But the cool thing is that once they've made these corrections, I, the designer, I still own the creative vision of the website. So next time I open the website in Muse, Muse will tell me, oh, there have been corrections to the website. Do you want to review those? And I say, yes, I want to review those. So I say, oh, he corrected June to July and changed that picture. Oh, well, that's a duplicate. So let's correct that, okay? Because clients always make something wrong on the website, right? So let's give them that opportunity, but we still have control over what remains inside of the Muse website. Let's move over to InDesign also, because there's some interesting things happening over there too. Of course, performance, like I said in my slide deck before, is really, really important for all of our products. We need these products to be performant. And some of the new features include the ability to work better with tables. So now in InDesign, if I'm working on a table, I can very simply take my type tool and maybe select a whole column of text like this with a little arrow here, and if that column is in the wrong position, I can now click and drag it to a new position very, very quickly. Or I can take, for example, a whole row of information and say, no, this should actually be in the third position here. Okay, so much, much easier to work with tables. InDesign is not only a great application for creating layouts for print, it's also a great application for creating apps for mobile devices. But more and more, the feedback from our customers was that Apple was saying, this looks too much like a book. This looks too much like a magazine. This is not an app. You need to do that with iBooks and create an EPUB 3 fixed layout. So in this 2014 release of InDesign, what we've done is actually enable you to create fixed layout EPUB. So very simply, I can create my layout in InDesign, add all the interactivity that I want, and publish that as a fixed layout EPUB. And let me show you how that might look. I'm going to move over here to iBooks. Of course, iBooks is the same on the desktop as on the iPad. And if I open my publication, I will go to the last page that I visited, okay? And you can see that very, very quickly, I can move through the pages. The layout is fixed as I designed it, and I even have the opportunity to use little animations, such as these headphones that come up. I did that with Edge Animate. It's an HTML animation, and I included that inside of my InDesign document. Or I can also include multimedia, for example, audio files for interviews, or even video. Let me play that video for a second. And then make that full screen, for example, in my ebook reader, right? And then escape out of that and go back to my reading experience and move on. So it's a whole new way of thinking about your digital publications. It's a new enablement for you to do EPUB 3 fixed layout directly from within InDesign. Let's also move to Adobe Illustrator, because again, Illustrator is our preferred application for vector drawing. And in the past, we've looked at tools, for example, the pencil tool, which nobody ever used because the pencil tool is a messy tool, right? Those of us who have been using Illustrator for a very long time know that the pencil tool doesn't do quite a good job. So I'm going to put it the old way. I'm going to start drawing a line, and you will remember that Illustrator creates a whole bunch of Bezier points and things like that. It's a messy line, and I would have to go in there and correct that. What we've done in the January release is we've enabled the pencil tool to actually draw smooth lines. So now with the same exact tool, and I can say that the pencil tool has become my best new friend in Illustrator, I can be as unprecise as I want, but Illustrator corrects the line that I've just drawn. And I can continue to draw and then close the line, and bam, I've created a drawing simply by maybe tracing something or drawing freehand. Talking about the pen tool, which is, of course, the older tool for very precise vector drawing, we've also made improvements to that. So, for example, now when I draw with my pen tool, you see that there's a line that follows my cursor. And this enables me to understand exactly where the new line will go. So very, very quickly, I can now go in there and start drawing. And then if I come here, I can click, and maybe I press the Alt key to pull out one of these arms to break the curve and then go back here, do something like that. And then also new in the CC14 release is the fact that when I close the path, I can now press the space bar and decide exactly where the path ends. Okay, so it's becoming more and more intuitive to actually draw with the pen tool as well. And one last thing that I wanted to show you is the ability to work with simple shapes. For example, the shapes that we have here with the rectangle tool, okay? And the rectangle tool allows me, of course, to do these rectangles like we have here. But there's a new panel in this release that allows me to actually work on the transformation of these objects. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. Oops, I took out the wrong panel. Let me just move that one down and zoom in a little bit. I can now directly from this panel say, I want a rounded corner on the top left. Boom. Then I can say, maybe I want a rounded corner on the bottom left, on the bottom right as well. But no, I want a chamfered corner. So very, very quickly, I can add these corners to multiple objects, which in the past was very difficult. Now, I can also give it a rotation. For example, let's say 15 degrees. Okay, let's apply that. All objects have been turned by 15 degrees. And in the past, when I clicked outside, well, that was it. Okay? If I ever wanted to go back to what I had before, I would have had to do Command-Z or remember how the original shape was. Now, I can, let me zoom out again. I can again select everything. And inside of the Properties panel, I still have that rotation information. So at any point, and this is non-destructive, I can go back to 0 and put the object back into its original position. And this was really something that in the past was much, much harder to do. One last thing is the ability to use Illustrator to export CSS code. So basically, we have a new CSS panel here. Here it is. And you see that as I select objects on my page, I get the CSS code for that, this cascading style sheets. So I can format elements on a web page. But I can also select everything and create the CSS for all of the elements on a specific page and export that. And that was never possible in Illustrator before. But now I can use the pixel-perfect precision of vector drawing in Illustrator to actually create web content. And if I go over here to, let me show you this web page that I'm working on. Let me just change the code here and link to my CSS, which I've just created, okay, and save that. Boom. All that formatting information is now applied to the dividers on that web page. One last thing. I'm going to go here and copy out of Illustrator a piece of vector art. I'm simply going to go Command-C and go back to my code and paste whatever I copied in Illustrator into my code. And believe it or not, what I'm pasting here is the scalable vector graphics version of that thing that I've just copied. So it's actually scalable vector graphics, meaning that it is it doesn't lose its quality when I zoom in because it's not pixel-based. And when I save this, boom, it's right here. Okay? Copy, paste, and end. Thank you.
Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Photolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the hashtag #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.
Over 10 months in 2013, we asked 10 international artists to create and share 10 exclusive artworks. They did far more than that. How do they work? Where do they find inspiration? What can they teach you? New exclusive concept. 10 Season 3.
So my name is Matthew Maxwell. I work for a communications agency called Imagination. And I want to talk for about 15 minutes on communication, which is why I've started with this. Some of you may remember the Babelfish, Douglas Adams' creation from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Babelfish is a little organism which you pop into your ear, and it magically allows you to communicate with any other sentient being in the universe. It is a kind of, in effect, a kind of lingua franca. kind of lingua franca. Lingua franca is a communication, is a language which is designed to allow people who don't share a native tongue to communicate with each other, to cooperate and collaborate. And you can see the obvious analogies with some of the tools that our hosts here have created. I don't want to labor that because I think it'll be quite obvious. Latin is the lingua franca of the Catholic Church. It allows people to, as I say, collaborate, but it really is the basis of any successful society, having a language which you can share. So I want to talk about communication. I don't really want to talk about communication between people. I want to talk about communication between computers and humans. So between us and between these things which we've designed, ironically, to help us communicate with each other better. And this is a perfect example of the problem that we face. The QR code, which to a computer is immediately legible, and it's obvious, and it contains huge amounts of data. But to a human, it's just a bunch of squares. Whereas a face, to us, contains layers and layers of meaning. Cultural meaning and aesthetic meaning and history and memories. But to a computer, even if it recognizes it as a face, it's just a face. It cannot read it. Now, we're fascinated by faces. Because they tell stories, because we find them beautiful, because they don't really change much. They have a basic arrangement of features, which means that you can use them as a framework to examine all kinds of other ideas of in this case, gesture and perception, psychology. They haven't changed much over time either, so they give us a little wormhole into the past, and they transmit in a beautifully refined and elegant way ideas of beauty and elegance and aesthetics and how those things haven't changed. And they even are able to stand for ideas which are far bigger, ideas of political and social change and ethics. They are the harbinger of identity. It's where your identity is stored. It's how you're recognized. And commercially, any newspaper editor will tell you that if you stick a face on the front of a newspaper, you will sell twice as many copies as you would if you stick an object or a landscape or something. And actually, I think this is quite interesting because the story here is being told through our ability to read the difference between these two faces, the young man in his prime and the older man in decline. And there's a pathos which we can immediately decode. It's a skill which is quite extraordinary in its sophistication. Our ability to interrogate a database of meaning and profiles which we've built up all our lives. And when you start to add the ability of computers to start to analyze much larger data sets and construct faces, in this case, a kind of anthropological study, it starts to add a whole new level to it. And I find this fascinating. Because obviously these are constructed artificial faces, but as you look at them, they have real identity, or we start to impose identity on them, as well as starting to identify, actually, yes, that is a classic English look. That is a classic Peruvian face. It's something quite fascinating. Maybe I just fancy them all. It's possible. Obviously, this is a skill that we learn from day one, really. Somebody told me yesterday, I think it's probably true, that your eyes, when you're born, are the same size. Your eyes are born fully formed. They never grow. So it's obvious that this is a key survival tool that we are equipped with. And the ability, the ability to, I'm going to knock that over your laptop. The ability to read a face, to recognize the people who are most important to us, to create that empathetic relationship is a key survival skill. These are the people who are going to feed you and look after you when you're most defenseless. This is the emotional relationship you're going to set up, which is going to make, again, not just that relationship, but the whole of human society binds it together. It's really important. And that's why images like this are so disturbing, because literally they don't, well, figuratively, they don't compute. And at the same time, they're fascinating, because there's a dissonance there which we immediately try and decode, and we try and figure out why it doesn't work and what it is. We're fascinated by faces. And again, you know, as in the modern age, as we have increasing tools and computer technology, we're able to study the physiology of why this happens, how we do this, how we have this skill, how it works. And I find it, particularly my background as a digital designer, that is the equivalent of the way that we optimize an interface design. We'll use eye tracking technologies to watch how people see and navigate through and interrogate an interface decode it and navigate through it. We do exactly the same thing when we look at a face. And the amount of information we're able to grasp from that face is really almost infinite. Computers, again, and the computers, the merging of computers and humans and the perceptions tools that we use. There are a whole myriad now of different services. It's a bit like somebody once said about the iPad, incorrectly I think, that it was a solution in search of a problem. We've got this technology, we're trying to figure out what to do with it. So this is a company called Face++. You can do this off their website. It will give you an instant analysis of your face. I think it's interesting that obviously it gives you the biometrics, but the other things they seem to be interested in are your age, your degree of whiteness, which is kind of sinister. Although, gratifyingly, they've got me at 51%, which, considering I'm probably the whitest man on earth, is pretty... and even more gratifyingly, 99.98% male, despite my pretty girly hair that I've got in that picture. So we've got these tools, and that's my question to you today. What are we going to do with them? So, for example, one thing I've been playing around with, and I'll demonstrate it later if anybody's interested, is taking one of these open source APIs which can measure the face, taking those metrics, taking the angle and the distance between all the primary markers on the face, transcribing those into musical tones, because music is essentially mathematical, and using it to sing your face back to you. We're fascinated by faces, by what they look like, but nobody's ever thought, what do they sound like? So that's a happy use of it. The flip side is things like this. This is something that Facebook, and guys, the clue is in the name here, Facebook, which has the largest photo collection in the world, and principally of people's faces. And I suspect that there's very few people in this room today who don't have a picture of themselves on Facebook, which means that we're now very close to having the largest facial audit of the human population that we've ever seen. I've developed this thing called, rather suggestively, I think, called Deep Face, which is, claims to have almost human levels, 97.4% ability to recognize a face. This is Sylvester Stallone in this case. And so that opens the doors to what is, potentially this nightmarish dystopian world where there is nowhere to hide, where you walk down Shoreditch High Street and any camera that's there is tracking you, they know who you are, where you've been, what your credit record is, what your criminal record is, what your sexual, everything about you. There's nowhere to hide. So this privacy issue becomes really quite problematic. And the takeout thought that I'm going to give you at the end, and I'll start now, is that we as creators and we as the inheritors of these tools, thank you Adobe, thank you everyone else, what are we going to do with them? Do we use them like superpowers? Do we use them for good or for evil? Deepface actually is currently suspended theory because of a legal challenge in the US. But meantime, the rebellion is starting. This is a great artist called Leo Salvaggio. He's in Chicago, I think. I think I'll let him speak for himself. This is a short clip from his website.
Hide a person from surveillance. What if I just showed the cameras a different, alternative identity? Let the camera tag a face, so long as it's not the public's face. In other words, I wanted to make a kind of Guy Fawkes mask that could pass for an actual person. Enter Your Me surveillance devices. Using my own face as a decoy, these products serve to protect the public from surveillance by having cameras track me instead of you. In other words, when you're out in the world, your actions on camera will be attributed as my own.
I am Spartacus. I think that's fantastic. It's You Are Me. You can buy these for $200, which he sells at cost price, apparently. You can be Leo Salvaggio if you want to. You can disappear. So other people are doing this. This is Isao Ishitsun's privacy. I think of this as the anti-Google Glass, because what he's trying to do is prevent perception happening, prevent him from being happen. However, there's a counter-argument. The counter-argument, obviously, is that face recognition is something that we have always done, something that we depend on. When I walk into my corner shop, they know it's me. Straight away, they know it's me. They know I owe them a $5. They know they've got the magazine that I prepared for them. They know my kids. They can, in a second, instantaneously, they can access a whole profile, which is continually evolving, which is what allows commerce to happen. It's what allows business to happen. It's what allows human relationships to happen. Computers allow us to do that better. What could possibly be wrong with that? And We're working on that at Imagination with the spirit of optimism and taking that moral challenge by the horns and thinking, okay, how can we use this stuff to make the world a better place? How can we make experiences better? So, for example, with luxury brands, we work with Jaguar and Land Rover and Rolls-Royce and Aston Martin. One of their prime concerns is how do we communicate with our most important customers on a one-to-one basis? We can't treat people as punters. We have to treat them as individuals. And we have to do that on an international basis. How can we, and typically at the moment, it comes down to the members of staff to recognize those customers, but there's got to be a better way of doing it with some kind of informed consent, obviously. We are looking at how can we make the events and the exhibitions and the experiences we create better, more fun. How do we do that? You can do it on an ad hoc basis by going around and asking people, or you can actually track them. If they're smiling, if they spend longer, it's working. If they're not smiling and they don't spend any time on it, you've got to improve it. You're not getting your message across. You're not building an effective experience. And all this is adding up to our objective at the moment, which I think is quite ambitious, but it's quite exciting, which is to create what we call emotionally intelligent spaces. Spaces which can react in real time at the speed of emotional intelligence to the people who are using them, to their occupants. And that might be as little as changing color, or it might be any number of things. Using that technology to actually improve people's lives rather than to spy upon them. It's a principle of optimism, I'd suggest. It's a belief that we have as a company, and also I have as an individual, that optimism is essential. Companies that invest in the future and innovate and motivate their staff tend to succeed better than those that cling to the past and are risk-averse. And to put that in a different way that computer might recognize, we could say that if it's true that you're sad, stop being sad and be awesome. I actually have really rattled through this, so I've got time to show you one more thing, which is another example of actually putting my work where my mouth is. Music clearly is a lingua franca that both computers and humans understand. Music is based on mathematical principles. Computers love maths, and the maths it creates, humans love the music it creates. So this is a little project I did last year. Again, just a little prototype experiment. And it allows me to end on music as well, which I think is always good show business. So thank you very much indeed. The chests of generals sport a plumage that would rival anything in the animal kingdom. It's a codified abstract design language that speaks to the personal and political and military feats that have shaped that individual's life. The ribbon pictures interpret the decorations of 5 prominent members of the armed forces. From the sea, from the UN peacekeeping force, from the US Marine Corps, US Strategic Bomber Command, and General Petraeus of the US Army. Ribbons become music by assigning a musical note to each colour, with the width of that colour dictating the length of that note. The soprano, Susan Parks, then sings the scores and tries to make sense of something which is inherently, musically illogical. Finally, the developer, Lloyd Harrison, unifies the results into a smartphone app, which allows the pictures to sing for themselves. fabulous. Thank you very much.
Lots of food for thought there. Now, Matthew's going to be joining us towards the end of the show up here in the tube, and apparently I'm going to get to hear what my face sounds like. Now it's time to take another deep dive, this time into Illustrator CC, to see some of the enhancements and new tools for faster, smarter drawing and more.
My name is Tony Harmer. I'm a Senior Solutions Consultant for design products here in the UK. The Illustrator team is always working hard to streamline, improve and refine the tools that we work with in Illustrator. So I'm here in Illustrator with my custom workspace. They're really easy to create and we've had them for quite a while. All you do is put everything the way you want it, come up to the workspace switcher and choose New Workspace. That now extends to the toolbox and you can create your own toolboxes for whatever reason. Personally, I like to create them for the tools that don't have accelerator keys. As a proficient user, I'm used to tapping certain keys and key combinations on the keyboard to access the tool I want so I can work quickly. Some of the tools don't have accelerators, and so I've created my own toolbox to use them. To do that is really simple. You simply go to the window menu, come down to Tools, choose New Tools panel, and then drag the tools into that panel when it appears that you want, and it stays there. And like many other things, it's synchronized in the Creative Cloud. So, one of the significant enhancements is with the pen tool in Illustrator, which has been refined and streamlined. I'm going to show you that now by adding a sail to this pirate ship. So I'm just going to zoom in like so, and then I'm going to switch to the pen tool and I'm going to start drawing. So I'm going to move up to this point here and I'm going to click and drag to start off a curve like so. And I'm going to come down to this bottom point here. And one of the first things you're going to notice is that I'm now getting a path preview, and that's part of the new rubber banding feature inside of Illustrator. I come down to this point here and I'm going to mouse down and drag. Another enhancement is the ability to add unequal handles on a path. Previously I'd have had to drag a handle, switch to the direct selection tool and then extend or retract the handles. Now I can just hold down the Command key or the Control key on a PC and you can see that I can change the length of the handle that I'm working with. I'm just going to now hold down the Alt key and steer that around ready for the next curve, and I'll release at that. I'm going to move over to this side just here, just hold down the spacebar there and change my view. Now I'm going to mouse down and drag for this curve also. Again, I'd like this to have a slightly longer handle on the inside, so I'm going to pull the handle out, then hold down the Command key and retract slightly the handle on the right hand side. Now I'm going to switch to the Alt key, steer this around, release at that. I'll move up to the top here, mouse down, drag, and then I'm just going to hold down the Alt key now and just go around these shapes just here. So each time I hold down the Alt key, I can split the handles like so, dragging there, Alt key down and drag. This time, before I click on the last point, you'll see that I get a circle cursor next to my pen cursor, showing me it's going to close the path. I'm going to hold down the Alt key. That means that when I click and drag, the first handle won't be affected by my actions. You can see very quickly I've drawn the kind of sail shape that I'm after. I'm just going to switch to my direct selection tool here and make a couple of small modifications like so. And I'd like to adjust these curves, and I can use the Convert Point tool, or as it's now known, the Anchor Point tool inside of Illustrator to do that. Shift-C on my keyboard accesses the tool. I can then move out to any curve. You'll see the cursor change. I can click and drag like so, and the curve is modified. It's all very, very simple. So now I can switch to one of the tools in my custom toolbox. I'm just going to use my knife tool here. First of all, I'll just add a different colour to this sail like so. I'm going to use my knife tool, easily accessible from within the toolbox like so. I'm just going to come and make some cuts in here, just like this, all very simple. Switch to my selection tool, deselect the large shape, and then change the colour there like so. Just modify that slightly. And there we are. And you can see I can draw shapes like this really, really quickly. The Illustrator team constantly innovate to bring us new tools and improvements so that we can be at the cutting edge with our work in Illustrator. What I'm going to do now is place a few images and use one of those images to create an image brush. So I'll just zoom out like so, and I'm going to use the place command in here, Shift Command P, Shift Control P on the PC. Go to a folder like so, and you'll see that in Illustrator CC I can select several images and choose place, just as I could in Adobe InDesign. So come across here and click and drag to proportionally place this pirate graphic, click and drag for these coins, like so. And I've got this small rope PSD here. I'm just going to click and drag to add that. And I'll be using that in just a moment, so I'll just park that over there for a second. I'm going to open up my brushes panel, and now before I drag this in, I need to embed the image. The control strip has an embed button, which makes this a one-click operation. Just validate that like so, and now drag that into the panel. Designate this as a pattern brush. Give it a name. I'll just call it rope brush like so. Illustrator can also auto-generate the corners for me. I'm just going to choose this auto between method just here for this particular brush and click OK. And that's it, my brush is created. I can delete this image from the artboard. So now I'm going to switch to the rectangle tool and click and drag to create a rectangle like so. And when I do that, you'll notice that the transform panel opens, allowing me to enter numeric values for the width and the height, the rotation, and now the corner radiuses. I don't want to use that because I don't have a numeric plan in mind. I just want to use something that feels right. So I can use these widgets just on the side here to click and drag and add a corner radius. I can change the corner type. If I use the Alt key and click on the widget, you'll see that that corner type changes. And I have 3 different corner types I can choose from. So I'm just going to use this inverse corner like so. Then I can just drag that to be however I want it to be. Maybe just change the height of that like so. You can see the corners all change dynamically with the shape. Now I can add my image brush. And you can see with a click I've done something that would have been a very, very complex operation previously. Now I can drag that down into place here and just send it to the back like so. With Illustrator CC, you're always connected. And there are several services, including the synchronization of my workspaces, presets and libraries that I can use. If I just go to my Illustrator menu on my Mac, this will be the Edit menu on the PC, come down to Preferences and choose Sync Settings. You can see here I have a list of all of the different things that I can synchronize. This will synchronize with any of the other computers I'm using with Creative Cloud, like so. If I click OK, that's all now synchronized. Or I could click the Sync button at the bottom of the document area, like so. And that will sync them, it takes just a few seconds. One of the other cloud services I can use is Typekit. So I'm just going to turn on a type player just here. And I want to choose a font that I don't have on my system. So I'm going to go to the font menu here and choose Add Fonts from Typekit, like so. And it will take me out to the Typekit website where I can use the filters here to choose a typeface. So I quite fancy a script typeface for this, and I'd like it for desktop use, and I'd like it to have quite a heavy weight. And you can see that as I do this, it's dynamically filtered on the left-hand side here. This Serena font looks to be perfect for what I'm after. So I'm just going to click Use Fonts, just here, and then choose to sync. Close that. And that will be synced with my desktop. You can see that I'm just getting an alert just there telling me that that is now synced. Go back to Illustrator and back to my font drop down like so. I have a little filter button in the top here that allows me to filter down 4 Typekit fonts. I can choose Serena, there like so, just bring that in slightly. There. And I'm going to use the touch type tool now just to modify that slightly. Switch to the touch type tool, and I'd like to make this G slightly larger. Like so, just reposition that. Perfect. I can just steer this whole thing around. I'm just going to finish that off with a graphic style. Choose that like so, and that's it, done. Illustrator, like the other CC products, is geared towards providing content for mobile. And so I could export this as an SVG for use on a site, but today this is just going to be a JPEG image to be used inside of an iPad application. So I'm going to go to the File menu and choose Save for Web. I can then optimize that like so. Save. And that's exported. So there we are. That's how Illustrator enables you to work faster, be at the cutting edge, be always connected, and get mobile. Thanks for watching.
One of the main pillars of the 2014 release of the Creative Cloud is Get Mobile. And I'm joined now by our ever mobile and all-knowing evangelist, Rufus. Thank you for joining us, Rufus.
Thank you.
Now, you spend an awful lot of time on the road, so I'm sure this particular part of the release is of real relevance to you, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Can you now talk us through some of the ways in which we've addressed being able to be creative whilst on the move?
Well, first of all, we have new apps that work on the iPad, and also Photoshop Lightroom on the iPad and the iPhone. And this is all tied together with this creative profile that we have now, which is linked to the Adobe ID. And basically, all of these apps link to that creative profile. So I find all my colors, I find my brushes, my assets, and I can really start working mobile. And everything I do on my device gets synced back to the cloud and back to my desktop computer. So basically, with this creative identity and these mobile apps, the circle is really closed now because I can really work on the road. And this is one of the important things that we thought about when we created these apps. We didn't want to make toys. We didn't want to make funny things to use. So we really concentrated on making an app that's very good for a professional to use, but easy enough to use for somebody who's just entering the creative world or sphere and wants to create on the go. And that's what we did with these apps. We have Adobe Sketch, which is a sketching app that allows me to link my sketch to Behance as work in progress, or publish a whole collection of sketches to Behance as portfolio work. We have Adobe Line, which I'm going to show you in a second, and Photoshop Mix, which is a really nice concept in this mobile world, because this is something that we are starting to talk about. It's called the Creative SDK, the Software Development Kit. And basically what we're doing is we're giving access to third-party developers to our technology.
Wow, fantastic.
So, for example, in Photoshop Mix, there are filters like upright or shake reduction or filters to remove things, and
the content-aware technology.
Content-aware technology, and as you well understand, all these technologies use a lot of computing power, and these devices are not yet strong enough to support these things. So what the Creative SDK does, it sends a preview of that image to our servers. Applies the filter that you want.
The heavy work,
the heavy work is done on our servers, and then the image comes back to the device itself.
Fantastic.
And then we have, for this whole mobile world, we also have these two new devices. And this is Ink, which is a digital pen, which allows me to draw very precisely. It has pixel point technology from Adobe here, and it is over 2,000 pressure levels that I can use while I'm drawing. And a digital ruler, which allows me to finally draw straight lines and circles and geometrical objects right on the iPad.
Really precisely.
Very precisely, something that was impossible before. And the other very cool thing is that this is all linked to my Creative Cloud account. So with this pen, by pressing this button, I can access a whole bunch of tools and my colors. I can access my Creative Cloud clipboard as well, which basically allows me to copy things from Adobe Line, for example, and go over to somebody else's iPad and paste it there.
Wow.
So it's really a new workflow that we're presenting here. And let me open Adobe Line for a second. Here I have a few examples. For example, the coffee cup that I was working on with Michael. And this is the initial idea that we then brought to Illustrator, to Photoshop, and into the 3D printed cup. I can draw in perspective. Here are some tests that I did. I can draw very perpendicular lines. All these things that you expect from a ruler, right? And a few sketches with some interface design or in perspective again. And here I tried to show the transparency in the marker tools that we have. Some typography as well, because this is very interesting, because in Adobe Line we have the ability to use French curves. Something that you would use in for designing things like that. And here's a little drawing, a little sketch that I did of the Venus. And as you know, the Venus is with us with Illustrator from the very beginning. And we used the Venus to show how curvy and nicely shaped the hair was, and that Illustrator was able to do that. And I did a sketch with just straight lines. But let's jump right in and make a new sketch here. And basically what we have, I'm going to go through this tutorial. I mean, you can learn everything here if you want to, but I want to start drawing. Absolutely. Oh, and one thing we notice right away is that we also have a digital ruler. So it's not necessary to have these ink and slide. You can use any type of pen or even your fingers to move that ruler. Of course, it's very easy with slide to draw, because it also has a button on top of it that allows me to be very precise.
So we're actually going to be getting ink and slide later on in the year in the UK. So in the meantime, it's no problem to use these applications with the virtual ruler. And
again, these applications are free, so everybody can feel free to actually use them and play with them. So I'm going to turn off the digital ruler for a second and just show you the tools that we have. We have some pencils, a 2H, an HB pencil. We have some ink pens, a brush, a marker, and of course all of the colors here. But the cool thing also is that I can really decide the size of the mark that I want to do on the paper and the opacity of it. And I can even decide whether I want to have terminals. The terminals is when you put the pen down and when you pick the pen up again. And then I have access to all of my cooler themes. And the cooler themes are part of my creative profile. And of course I can add color themes from popular color themes on Cooler. I can go to My Cooler, etc. This last button here is also very interesting, because this one allows me to actually draw in perspective. So I can really decide how the vanishing points are inside of my drawing. And when I turn this on, I'm going to say OK to this and use the ruler. You will notice that as soon as I put it down, I have the ability. And let me just take a pen again here. Let me go back here and take maybe a 50mm pen. And when I draw with that, I can draw really straight lines. And if I change the orientation of the lines, I can really precisely start drawing in perspective. And as I said, on the pen itself, when I press on it, this little
the connection to your profile,
this
right?
set of icons will appear, and I will be able to access my cooler colors from here. I can go back here and change the size of my pen. And of course, this is also very important when you're drawing in full screen, when all of this interface isn't there.
Yeah.
And let me point out the Creative Cloud clipboard for a second. So if I press here, the Creative Cloud clipboard opens, and basically this clipboard are drawings and sketches that are saved inside of the pen.
Yeah.
So I can, and also in the cloud.
In the cloud.
And when I move to another device, I can simply paste these clipboards on somebody else's device.
So anything that you're using regularly, any sketches that you want to repeat.
Very easy to share the sketches with somebody else. And of course, talking about sharing, I can also say get feedback on Behance, so I can ask people, what do you think about this drawing? I can copy the image to the Creative Cloud, so have it in my Creative Cloud folder, send it to Photoshop, send it to Illustrator, or share through the other social media that may be connected to my Creative Cloud account.
And if I share it to Photoshop, what then happens when I open up my Creative Cloud Photoshop application at home?
Well, it's quite automatic, because if your computer is on and Photoshop is running, basically when I say share to Photoshop, it'll suddenly appear inside of the Photoshop window. And
you don't even need to open it yourself.
Believe me, the first time it happened, I was like doing something, I said, oh, nice, you can send it to Illustrator, and I continued doing things, and then I looked at my screen, and there it was. You know, it was pretty crazy. And another very interesting thing as well, and let me get out of the perspective grid a second, I'm going to take it off, is that we can use, let's dismiss that, I can use trace packs. So for example, the French curves. So if I use the French curves here and go back with my ruler, let me just go back here. Here is my French curve, and very precisely I can use the French curve to draw curves.
Yeah.
And also interesting is there's a whole bunch of stamp packs. So for example, if I need to put people or trees or skaters or safari animals or canines. Do you like canines?
Love canines.
Yeah, let's put a little dog in this picture here. And of course, if I press on the button on my slide, I can cycle through various types of canines. Well, which one do you like? Oh, this one is the big one, right? So if I tap on it, I can say, okay, oops, it's gone. Let me just do that again. Let me put the canine here, okay, and make that slightly bigger, and double tap, and here it is. And then I can start sketching on it and use that. So yes, it opens a whole new way of approaching sketching and using these devices that these days, frankly, we always have with us. And it really makes sense inside of a creative workflow to start sketching here, bring it to the desktop applications, and then bring it into the creative workflow.
So can I just ask you at this point, Rufus, because we were asked a little while ago by one of our audience members, what we're looking to do with Android devices, because obviously these are iOS applications.
Well, right now our research tells us that the vast majority of creative professionals are Apple users. So that's where we concentrated on. Now, if these numbers change in time, of course, we will investigate that and we will develop for other operating systems as well. But there's not only Android, there's also Windows Mobile, there's, there's all sorts of operating systems that we may consider in future. And right now, the vast majority of our users use iPads and iPhones and things like that.
Great. Thank you very much indeed, Rufus. Some great insights there. Some really good tools for working on the move, as well as the hardware, of course. And when it comes to mobile, it's not just about creating on the move. The Creative Cloud gives you all of the tools that you need to publish to mobile also. Be that responsive websites, applications, digital publications. We've got much more on that shortly, so do stay tuned. Let's take a closer look now at just how always connected the Creative Cloud 2014 enables you to be.
Hi, this is Rupert Knowles from the Adobe Creative Cloud team. In this video, we are going to be talking about the Creative Profile. One of the benefits of the Creative Cloud is that it allows us to deliver a more personalized experience for our members. Until now, this was made available via the Creative Cloud desktop application, but we've expanded this to the Creative Cloud on the web and via our mobile applications as well. The Creative Profile, which is your creative identity, includes your files, photos, fonts, colors, and community and learning content all together and connected. The Creative Cloud becomes the hub of your creative world, and this personal experience starts with the new Adobe homepage. If you go and have a look at adobe.com today, you'll see that it's very different to what you may have seen in the past. It will recognize if you're already logged in, and as I'm an existing Creative Cloud member, it will present me with the various applications and services that I'm entitled to, and here we can see on the left-hand side. Also, if you do want to find out about other Adobe services and products, just click Menu, and this will allow you to browse and search for those other services and products as well. But the first thing we're going to talk about is the applications here. And one of the new things we've added to the homepage is a link for add-ons. So add-ons is a marketplace for plugins and extensions to a variety of Adobe Creative Cloud applications. It allows you to search and filter and find things that are relevant for you. So here I've selected Photoshop, and I can choose not just paid, but I can also search for free plugins as well. Here we've selected free, and then we can sort, and here we're going to sort and find the most, which are the most popular ones. So let's select this first one here, which is some paper textures by Adobe's very own Russell Brown. And not only can we see what version of Photoshop this works with, but we can also look at ratings and reviews and see what other members think of this particular plugin. We also can see here that I've actually already acquired this particular extension here. So the Creative Cloud is actually remembering what I've acquired in the past and what I'm entitled to as well. So please do go ahead and explore the Adobe Marketplace. Now let's switch back to adobe.com and talk a little bit about the mobile applications. Adobe CC 2014 introduced a whole new set of mobile applications. And one of the benefits of those applications is that they are content aware. They know about the content, they know about the creative assets that you've posted up there and that you've made available. So let's go in and actually have a look at one of those and see how that works in the context of Creative Cloud services. Okay, so we're going to have a little look at Photoshop Mix. Photoshop Mix allows us to blend two images together and apply a variety of effects. So what I'm going to do here is click plus, and one of the things that Photoshop Mix gives us access to is not only photographs that are actually on the device itself, but also files that may be in your Creative Cloud, but also photos that are in Lightroom collections that you've made available. So Lightroom Mobile introduced this concept of collections. So within Lightroom you can create smart collections and then make them available on your devices as well. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to select Lightroom, and then we can browse our photographs here. So let's select this background, and now we want to add a foreground image. And because this is connected, we are going to use our iPhone. So now we're going to go, using my iPhone here, we're going to grab a photograph of this Adobe mug. So let's just snap it there. Okay, we're done. And let's just go to Adobe Lightroom Mobile on the phone. So this is one of the new applications, is Lightroom Mobile on the iPhone. And this is set to automatically upload new photographs that I take on my iPhone to Lightroom in the cloud. Okay, so it's adding those, and it's going to synchronize those photographs for me automatically. So as I take them, it'll add them to the collection and then upload them to the cloud. So now we're going to go back to Photoshop Mix, and let's select another picture here. We're going to go back to Lightroom, and this time we're going to select our Auto Import Catalog. And this is where we can see the photograph we've just taken of our mug. So let's select that mug, and it's going to load that in to my composition. So now we just need to cut it out. So we select cut out, and let's do a quick selection here. Okay, so we've done a quick selection, click on the plus sign, and now we can rotate and move that cup around, and we'll have it over here. And when we're happy with that, we can now create a Photoshop file out of this. So we save to Photoshop. Now, the other thing that this is doing is also it's now saving this to our Creative Cloud. And here we get a notification saying a composition has been added. If we now go to our files and have a look at our files here and open up the, our Creative Cloud files in the browser, we can click on this new folder, we can click on this composition here, and here we can see the composition that we've just created. We can see the details around the composition. We can also have a look at the layers as well, and we can turn those layers on or off accordingly. We've also been able to identify the colours here, or the primary colours used in this particular composition. So I can select those, and if I click on that, it's going to take me over to Adobe Cooler, our colour swatch generator. So here it's automatically generated the colours from that particular composition, and we can save this. So let's just call it mug, and save. And now we've got our cooler theme called mug, and that's being added to my themes, which will now be available in a variety of different applications, and we'll see that later on. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's synchronized to my Creative Cloud, but when it gets synchronized to my Creative Cloud, it also gets synchronized down to my computer here as well. So if we go to our Creative Cloud folder here, we can see that we have a new composition here, and if we double click that, it's going to open it up into Adobe Photoshop. And here we can see our composition. Our two layers have come in. Also notice how we've added a mask here. So if you want to fine-tune the mask back in Photoshop, you can. So if I just toggle this layer mask, you can see the original image there with the mask on. So you can start working in something like Photoshop Mix, bring it into Photoshop, and finesse it later on. The other thing, of course, I mentioned was Cooler. If we go to Cooler here now, we've got this Cooler panel inside Photoshop, which is one of the add-ons that you can get. Click on My Themes, and here we can see the theme we created called Mug, with all of those different colours in there. Okay, so let's now go back again to Adobe's homepage. So we've talked about files, we've talked about photos. Let's quickly just show you the photos here. Again, we can see the mug appearing there inside my Lightroom collection. Okay, so we're back on the Adobe homepage again. Now, we've seen our files, we've seen our photos. Let's talk a little bit about fonts. So we've extended Adobe Typekit to allow Creative Cloud users to be able to use some of those fonts within their desktop applications as well. So if we click on the fonts here, it will open up the Typekit font browser. This is a great way to discover fonts, a great way to search for fonts. We can filter by classification, for example. We can filter via various different properties, widths, heights, strengths, and we can also select for desktop use. So when I select desktop use, it will filter and show the ones that I'm allowed to use within desktop applications, be it Photoshop or Microsoft Word. So we're going to select Sail here and click Use Font, and all we need to do is do Sync Selected Fonts, and that will now synchronize back down to my desktop. And there we go, we've got a notification saying the font Sail Regular was added to your collection. So now if we switch back to, say, Photoshop, and go to the typography panel here, and we look under the character panel here, you can see that we can see here the various typekit fonts can be identified with this green icon. And if we scroll down, not sail down, then we can also see we have here Sail Regular has been added to my font collection. So we've seen how we've been able to take advantage of the cloud to share assets across desktop applications, across mobile applications, to share color profiles, to share fonts, and of course, when we're ready to publish, we can also connect up to the Behance Creative Network. So many of the applications now provide you the ability to publish directly out and to share your work and to get feedback with your peers, but also to discover as well what those other people are doing and get ideas across the network as well. So hopefully you've seen how the creative profile is taking shape. You can combine the best of the desktop applications with the mobile applications, and they can share common assets, be it photos, files, color swatches, fonts, all coming together and then allowing you to share those publicly as well. Give it a go, and thanks for watching.
Do keep your tweets coming in to #CreateNow to let us know what you think of what you've seen so far. And do also please enter that fantastic competition. Here are the details. Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Photolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the hashtag #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.
Over 10 months in 2013, we asked 10 international artists to create and share 10 exclusive artworks. They did far more than that. How do they work? Where do they find inspiration? What can they teach you? New exclusive concept. 10 Season 3.
One of the many great things about the Creative Cloud is it enables you to work from anywhere, not just from your office. And we have a fantastic example of that coming up right now. From kitchen table to international publication, Martin Hopkins, European brand manager for Roland Music, is up next with his inspiring story.
My name's Martin Hopkins, and I'm the European brand manager at a music company called Roland. We're a Japanese company, and we make electronic musical instruments. So the company was started in Osaka, in Japan, in 1972. And we started with a really simple idea, and that was that music technology would change the way that we made music, that it would transform the way we make music. And that's something that's kind of guided us for the last 40 years or so. And we're now one of the largest music products manufacturers in the world based on turnover. So what do? We make everything from electronic drum kits, to synthesizers, to pianos, to amplifiers, to guitar effects, production equipment. Basically anything that makes a noise and is involved in music making, we're probably involved in some way. Consequently, our customers are musicians, and the customers range from A-listers, who you definitely would have heard of. For example, it was Glastonbury last weekend. I don't know if any of you went. Our gear was used by Metallica, Kasabian, Rudimental, Disclosure, people like Lily Allen, and so on. And then across the other end of the spectrum, we also deal with people who are picking up an instrument for the first time, everybody else in between as well. So that's our customers. What do? I look after brand communications, content strategy, and design for Roland Euro Group. And it's my job in many ways, and our team's job, to try and make this happen as much as possible, to try and get as many people using our gear as we can. Kind of saying it out loud makes me sound like a drug dealer a little bit, and it's not meant to, but that's what we try and do, just try and get people playing this music as much as possible. How do we do it? We kind of talk about three things generally. The first thing that we do is to get artists using our equipment, so we do lots of video interviews and written interviews where well-known artists will talk about how they actually use the product, how they get the sound, how they use it live, and so on and so forth. Then we talk about issues which are relevant to the music industry in general. So imagine if you were in a band or you were trying to get started musically. We talk about things like how to build a fan base using social media, or how to get your music used in video games, advertising, and film, or how to get the music press to write about you. So it's just kind of general information-led pieces as well. And then finally, you've got the product, which is where it all comes together. That's where we show you how you can do this for yourself, how you can get certain sounds, how you can record your first piece of music. So it's very much about how-to guides and tutorials and stuff like that, just to kind of give you the kind of the tips and the tricks that you need to move forward. What has that got to do with today, I hear you ask? Well, we used to do all of this in a print magazine called Power On, and you can see some of the previous issues that we've got there in the background. And we published it for around 10 years. We probably put about 20 issues out in that time. Used to do about 20,000 copies per issue, and it was a really, really good showcase of everything that we do. Kind of brought everything together in a really cool and compelling way. Artist stuff, music industry features, and of course products. And everything was going really well. Our customers seemed to love it. We even managed to win a couple of publishing awards along the way. And then, unfortunately, we hit a bit of a problem along with everybody else. In 2009, 2010, when the economy kind of tanked, then the print magazine seemed a very expensive thing to have because we had some budget cuts, and it became quite a difficult thing to defend. So very reluctantly, and after much arguing and throwing toys out with the pram, we had to park the magazine, and I kind of knew it wasn't going to come back, which was kind of a really big problem for us because we didn't have anything to replace it, so we'd lost one of the most effective ways of showcasing what we were about as a brand, and there was nothing to replace it. So in the months that followed, in a fit of depression while I waited to work out what happened next, there's a few things which were going on. Firstly, Apple announced the iPad. Secondly, it started to sell in some pretty big numbers. Thirdly, you started to see some really interesting media being developed on the new device. I remember when Wired first came out. I remember when Project first came out. Really fresh, really exciting, taking things in a completely different direction. And then, after doing some digging, I found out that there were these tools which Adobe had developed. And I think it hadn't even been formally announced. It was still in beta, Digital Publishing Suite. And I downloaded the tools. And one weekend, I started to experiment. So at home, on the aforementioned kitchen table, And one Saturday morning, I started to just experiment with the tools within InDesign and started to play around with it. And that Saturday morning very quickly turned into a whole weekend where it was a lost weekend in a good way. I was just playing with the tools, just having lots of fun, being creative, not speaking to my wife, and just going wild. And very quickly I saw the potential. Maybe we could bring the magazine back from the dead. What if we could relaunch it as a digital title? What if we could take it in a direction that we couldn't take the print magazine? So what I did over the next couple of weeks was that I put together a kind of a proof of concept, like an issue 0. And when it was ready, I kind of pitched it to our MD and said, look, this is something that we can do. This is something fresh and exciting. We can bring the magazine back and actually amplify its kind of reach and make it an improved product as well, because we're a music company at the end of the day. So it's good to be using audio and visual as well as words. And thankfully, he liked it, said, go ahead, publish. We were live in the UK App Store. And then something really interesting happened. We got a call from our Japanese colleagues. And the guys at Japan had seen it, and including the president of Roland Corporation. And they said, is there any reason why you can't kind of launch this as Roland's Global Magazine? To which I said, after about a nanosecond of thought, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And what we ended up with is this first issue, issue 1, which had Johnny Marr on the cover. And with just a few tweaks, we were live in the App Store in over 100 countries worldwide. So we'd gone from just doing a local print magazine to being a kind of our own global publisher in a very short space of time, and actually with kind of 2 or 3 people just putting the issue together. That's the issue. If you're a musician, please download it from the App Store and leave us a nice review. That's the self-publication bit done, self-promotion bit done. What's the appeal, though, from our perspective of digital publishing? There's actually a lot of things. There's a combination of strategic stuff and tactical stuff, and this is just some of the things that I just wanted to share with you today. As a music brand, having a digital magazine is a much more natural fit. If you think about it, it's kind of ironic that we use thousands of words talking about how something sounds. It's far better to show you what it sounds like. So if you're a musician, what does it sound like? What does it look like when you're using it? Musical instruments are a very tactile thing. So the ability to bring together audio and video into one place and add that to the written word is very compelling for us and allows us to tell our story much better. The next thing is just pure creativity. If you download the tools and start getting creative, I defy you not to have lots of good ideas. It just gives you a much broader vocabulary with which to tell your story. And in fact, it's kind of changed the way that we think about content creation. You've just got a much broader vocabulary now. You can do more things, you can see further. And having the ability to kind of bring your written content, bring your audio content, video content, and add to that interactivity, such as the ability to rotate the product in 360 degrees, so you can see what it looks like from different angles. We have a facility where you press the product and you can do a real-time Google shopping search to find out how much it is to buy. And that's all done kind of within the magazine. So very, very cool. And so much so that it allows you to tell a different type of story as well as a better type of story. The third thing for us is good old-fashioned cost. Okay, it's not as sexy as the other stuff I've been talking about, but a print magazine, printing and posting a magazine is expensive business. And unfortunately, it meant that we couldn't do as many issues as we would like. So that was one factor. The other thing was wastage. Now, I'd love to think that everybody would, upon receiving the magazine, run upstairs and rip the envelope open and spend lots of time reading it. But because we posted it to them, you never quite knew. How many of these magazines ended up in the bin? Can't tell you. Compare that with the digital product where you're able to, the end user can kind of go to the App Store and download it, and he waits for the content to download, and then it actually sits on his device as well. So he's quite keen. He's actually gone through a lot of steps to get his hands on your content. And there's a big difference there. The difference is that he's kind of pulling the content towards him rather than us pushing the magazine out to him, and it may not even be wanted in the first place. You've also got the benefit of analytics. So when you're speaking to the guys that sign off the checks, you can say, well, so many people have read this issue, this is what they like, this is what they don't like, this is the engagement that we've got, and all of those analytics plug back into your content creation process. So you can do more of what works and less of what doesn't work. The next is reach. This is a big one for us. We're doing all of the work anyway. So we're interviewing artists, we're doing videos, we're doing product demonstrations, we're doing blog posts, we're talking about a lot of stuff. So it's relatively straightforward from our point of view to bring all that together and to put it into a format which now allows us to reach a global audience. So we've moved from being a local publisher of a print magazine to a global publisher with a global audience. We're still doing the work, but we're able to leverage it to a much broader appeal. Also, there's the fact that there's consistency as well. So for the first time now, Roland customers throughout the world will see a single kind of tone of communications from us. So we speak with a single brand voice, which is great. The next thing is actually probably the most exciting, and that's where's it all headed? Where's it all headed? I still feel as if we're all in at the ground floor with digital publishing. It's early days. And as marketing moves from being something interruptive, which can get in the way, to something which is more about creating engagement and being value-based, you need a different set of tools and capabilities to compete. And for us, DPS gives us that ability. It gives us a better vocabulary to create engaging experiences for our customers. And if you think it's exciting now, what's it going to be like in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years' time? Just think about how the web has changed during that time. This is definitely a train that we want to be on. This bit is particularly cool, though. It's such a small point. Everything that I've been talking about, this is just one of my screen grabs from the next issue of the magazine, which is going to be published soon. You forget that all of this is available from within InDesign, and it still kind of freaks me out that you can publish an issue to a worldwide audience literally from your kitchen table, or from a train, or from on the street if you want to, if you've got a fast enough Wi-Fi connection. So it really puts the power of publishing back into the hands of kind of designers and the internal marketing teams, which for us is really, really cool indeed. Lessons learned. These are some of the things that I learned, though, and some of the things I wish I'd known at the time. The first is, if you're going to download the tools into InDesign and start playing with them, have fun. Go wild, experiment, because you'll get some really, really interesting things and ideas that will come from that initial period of creativity, and you'll find what works for your brand and what won't. The next thing is to stay calm. Don't overload the reader with too much interactivity. The third is to develop a style guide for your title to make sure that you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time you do an issue. Next is to keep your file size nice and small. Don't give someone a 500 meg issue to download, because they probably, it's a bit of a pain and it takes up valuable space on the device. Ask your readers for feedback, because they'll give it to you, and that helps with the rankings in the App Store. And also to promote all the time. Just because you publish the issue doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to flock to it. So you have to work quite hard to remind people that the issue is there. For us, what works really well is email marketing. Every time we send an email to all of our customers, the downloads can go up by 4 figures over a couple of days. Last slide is to learn about App Store optimization. This is the big one. This is where the main job actually starts. The good thing about the App Store is that there are over 1 million apps, so there's loads of choice. The bad thing about the App Store is that there are over 1 million apps, so there's too much choice, particularly if you're one of those apps trying to be found. It can be a nightmare. There's over like 7,000 music apps alone, and we're just one of those. So standing out can be tough, which is why you need to get on top of App Store optimization. There's lots of really good information out there. Just Google it. It involves selecting the right keywords, tracking what your competitor keywords are, and making sure that you're ranking nice and highly, because if you get it right, that's the thing that will really drive your downloads. parting shot for me, the hardest bit is still the hardest bit, I guess. And the hardest bit is what we all do on a day-to-day basis. You know, it's coming up with good ideas, trying to be creative, trying to engage with people, with our customers, and produce situations where people give a damn about what we do. But the second hardest bit, which is pulling it all together and being able to get the tools to publish and to reach a global audience and to develop that, the second hardest bit has got a lot easier than it used to be. And that's why we really like using DPS. All I would say to you is, if you're thinking of getting involved, it's a no-brainer. Jump in head first and have fun, because it's great. Thank you very much.
We're going to take a look at some more Creative Cloud digital publishing solutions now and see how Edge Animate and InDesign can work together to create rich, engaging, fixed layout digital books.
Hi, I'm Tony Harmer, Senior Solutions Consultant for Design Products here in the UK. The InDesign team continues to innovate and brings new publishing streams within your reach. Tasks that have previously caused some pain have now been made much simpler. Let's look at a couple of things to get a flavour of that, and I'm going to start in an earlier version of InDesign. So this is me in InDesign CC, and what I'm going to do is set up a custom workspace. So I'm going to use digital publishing as the base and then simply remove some of the panels that relate to Flash-based export, like so. And I'm going to save that as a workspace by going to the workspace switcher, choosing new workspace, and I'll call this workspace Tony, just there like so. With the Creative Cloud, all of my settings and menu customizations are synchronized. So if, like me, you like to set up an environment that suits you perfectly, and you've created lots and lots of different workspaces for different tasks and maybe menu customizations and shortcuts, you can rest assured that you won't have to do all of that work again when you migrate to InDesign CC 2014. You can sync your settings at any time by going to the lower left of the document window and choosing Sync Settings Now. Your settings will be synchronized with the cloud. When you launch InDesign CC 2014, you'll get an information dialog telling you that your previous settings and presets have been migrated into this version of InDesign. So there's no more worrying about spending time recreating things you had already. They'll be with you. Let's see how that works. If I click OK, you'll see that my workspace is available at the top there, and with just a click, I'm back into exactly the same environment with which I'm familiar. The always connected world of the Creative Cloud has several benefits to me as an InDesign user. First of all, when I've opened this document, there are some fonts missing, and InDesign has recognized that these are available on Typekit. So now all I have to do is click Sync Fonts, like so, and there's nothing else required on my part. I don't have to go to another dialog or to the Typekit webpage. It's all done inside of this panel. So there you are, they're synced. I can just close that and then start working on my document. While working on this document, I'd like some feedback from my creative peers, and so I'm going to publish to Behance. So now I'm going to upload this as a new work in progress. Give it a title. I'll stick with the document title just there, and I'll add some tags. So I'll just call this particular one Demo. That will do just for now. And then I'll post a comment to start the conversation. How's this looking? Make it visible to everyone or private invitation only, and click Continue, and that's it. It's live on Behance. The InDesign team work hard to provide me with the tools I need to do more in less time. Let's have a look at a task that has previously caused me a lot of pain. So here I am in this InDesign layout, and my client has decided they'd like me to swap these two columns around. Sounds simple enough, but past experience has taught me there's probably a great deal of pain in actually doing this, and maybe making the table again in another document and pasting it back in, or at the very least a load of adding in extra columns and then pasting content across and so on. Why does it have to be that hard? Well, now it doesn't. I can simply select this column like so, and then just drag the column back in the table, and it swaps, and it's as easy as that. This is going to save simply hours in some cases. It's a great addition to the product. Another thing that sometimes takes me more time than it should is finding the swatch I need in the swatches panel. If I open the swatches panel in a previous version of InDesign, I get one great big long list of all of the swatches. Now in InDesign CC 2014, you'll see that I have the ability to add swatch folders into which I can drag swatches and organize them in groups, similar to the way I can inside of Adobe Illustrator. That's another great addition and a massive time saver when you're dealing with a really large amount of swatches. Creative Cloud subscribers get additional tools, some of which, like Adobe Edge Animate, allow us to stay at the cutting edge of digital document production. Edge Animate is easy to learn and very designer friendly. There are even a series of lessons to help get you up and running with the product directly inside of the application itself, including demonstration files for you to work on. So in this file, I've got a set of headphones just here, which is just a PNG that I created in Photoshop, and they're positioned on the layout like so. This is where I'd like them to end up, but I want to animate them moving onto the layout. And so I can use the pin for this, which is a little animation tool. It's very easy to use. The first letter of pin is P, and that's what I'm going to tap on my keyboard. The pin is now engaged. Because the headphones are where I want them to be, I'm just going to drag out the blue marker just here to about 1 3/4 seconds like so. This allows me to determine the start point for my animation with the gold marker just here. So now I'm just going to drag the headphones down off of the layout. I have smart guides here so I can be assured that I'm in alignment. And if I do that and hit the space bar, you'll now see the animation play. Let's make that slightly more interesting by maybe adding a little bit of physics into it. We'll add in some nice bounce, and we can do that using this easing tool. If I click and choose ease in and out, I'm then going to choose elastic, like so. And now if I hit my space bar and have the animation play, you can see I get a nice lively bounce, like so. Now I need to export this to a format that is compatible with InDesign. My document is saved, so I'm going to go to the File menu and choose Publish Settings and choose Animate Deployment Package. That creates me an OAM file that can be used inside of Digital Publishing Suite projects and EPUB projects. So I'm just going to click Save. And now I'll go back to my InDesign layout. So back in InDesign, I'm just going to target the frame that I'd like the animation to go in and then place it, just as I would a Photoshop file or an Illustrator file. I'll use the Place command, then go into my Links folder here, and I'll choose my file. And InDesign adds that file into this frame. I'm not going to preview it, I'm going to show you that when we export the final project in just a moment. Something else I'd like to add is some video. So I'm going to go to another spread, and I've got a frame waiting here for some video, and I'm just going to place that like so. Choose the video file to go into the frame. So the video is now added, and then I'm going to use my media panel to add a poster for that content. So in my media panel, I can use the timeline here to scrub and choose a frame that I like, and then choose from the poster drop down from current frame. You'll see that InDesign updates that and it's ready to go. Increasingly in our super connected world, we need to be able to produce content that can be consumed on mobiles and devices. And InDesign gives us several ways to do that. We can produce PDFs, which can be consumed electronically. We can use Adobe's Digital Publishing Suite, a high-end solution for producing really engaging interactive content. We can also use EPUB 3 fixed layout. So I'm going to be exporting this document to a fixed layout EPUB in just a second. First of all, I'd like to add a link to this social media icon. So I'm going to select that and use my hyperlinks panel. Adding hyperlinks has been made so much easier recently inside of InDesign. All I need to do now is to type the URL into this field. So if I just add a URL like so, and because I'm connected, InDesign will check to make sure that's a valid URL. I've purposely typed a URL that is invalid. And so if I do that, you can see I get a red marker telling me that that URL won't work. There's the error. I've added a number to the end. So I'm just going to remove that and hit return. And InDesign checks again, and now I have a valid URL. So I know that one will work when it's published. Now I'm ready to go. I'm going to publish this to EPUB3 fixed layout. So I'm going to use the export command. So I'll just name my output file, like so, and choose EPUB fixed layout from the format menu. I'll choose save, and then I'll add some information here. I'm going to choose a cover from an image I prepared earlier on. So I'll just use a cover for the store, like so. And then from the navigation TOC, I'll choose multi-level TOC style and add an InDesign type style to that as well, Playfest. Go to the metadata and add some information there. So I'll just call this Playfest souvenir booklet, and then I'll click OK. InDesign exports the book, and this is open now in iBooks on my Mac. And so I can see here that if I navigate through it, there's my little edge animation going on down in the bottom there. If I move forward, here's my table swapped out like so. And if I come back, here's my movie content. I can click play, and the content will play.
You're making something which is total fun for you, like making music, and you get serious in it. You really must like force yourself, no matter how serious you are about it, to keep that playfulness and just keep like playing.
And you'll notice I can even play this in full screen. And that will work exactly the same on my iPad. There we have it. And there's more to discover inside of InDesign as there is the other Creative Cloud products. Make sure you visit the new and redesigned adobe.com website to discover and learn about what's waiting for you in the 2014 release of Creative Cloud. Thanks for watching.
Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Photolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the hashtag #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.
I'm hanging out with the Adobe Creative Cloud Evangelists now, and we're going to be talking cutting-edge features. Hi, guys.
Hi.
So we've just seen EPUB fixed layout in action, a big new feature there from the InDesign team, but there's tons of innovation packed into this release of the Creative Cloud. Can you share with us some of your favourite features?
Well, for design, EPUB fixed layout is great because that really allows me to take my design, my vision to the devices, and I see it really as it is. It's really what you see is what you get. But then there's other things. For example, in Illustrator, you can now copy SVG right out of Illustrator and put it in your website. And new in this 2014 release is the ability to export to save as responsive SVG. So SVG that scales depending on the resolution of the screen and the size of the screen you're looking at.
You've got that link up with Edge Animate as well now, haven't you? With Illustrator too, yeah.
That too. And all of the new CSS features in Illustrator are really interesting as well. So enabling me to export CSS right out of Illustrator. Yeah. That's pretty cutting edge.
Fantastic for our web designers and developers out there. Jason, how about you?
Yeah, well, so while there are many amazing features coming to the video products in this 2014 release of CC, I think for me one of the most exciting things is our broad adoption of these newer video formats, 4K, Ultra HD, 5K, 6K, and beyond. Whether you're shooting in 4 or 5K or even Red Dragon 6K, you can literally shoot and bring this footage right into the timeline. There's no transcoding, there's no conversion of any kind. You're working with native raw media, and you're just cutting. And it's this experience of doing it so quickly that allows people to be even more creative. And of course, we've now optimized our workflows with this new Ultra HD, with these new Ultra HD formats to take advantage of GPU, more GPU than before on the new Macs and the new PCs. So just the whole experience, the editing experience is better. And the fact is we know 4K and 5K and 6K better than anybody because we've been doing it from the beginning natively. Yeah,
we're really ahead of the game there.
We are, and as I've often said and joked with my colleagues here on stage, I mean, that sounds like marketing, but it's true. We've been doing it since the beginning, and we understand these raw workflows, and we've tried to make this process easier, and now with this latest release, it is. You can shoot and cut natively, raw, and get it out, and it's just wonderful.
And of course, we're going to be seeing a lot more of those innovative features in action in the video show, so do check that out. How about you, Michael?
I'm really excited by Adobe Muse.
Of course, yes, me too. I love Adobe Muse.
Especially the 2014 release, because now it's a 64-bit native app, so awesome performance. And I'm really excited by the success of Adobe Muse. Like if you take in 2013, last year, 500,000 websites have been published with Adobe Muse. So it really shows that you can empower traditional designers, that they become web designers and publish really very cool websites with animations, interactive widgets. So yeah, really excited by it.
And I believe Muse has been used a lot for prototyping as well, to quickly mock up websites as well by developers, not just designers. So
yeah, it's a way for designers just to express an intent, so what they want to see on the website. And of course, if you want to improve the experience, you may give it or ship it to a web development team. But just with Muse, you can go very far and have a very professional experience, especially since now that you can publish your website and anyone, a customer or a coworker, can edit the text or the images directly in a browser. So you don't have to call the developer, can you fix this line, change this word. No. Now the power is in the hands of the
And with this release, it's not just Business Catalyst hosted sites, right? It's all of them.
On Business Catalyst only, but now it's on any website. If you have the FTP credentials, then it will work.
Yeah. So massive user base now for Adobe Muse, and we actually had a question come in about Adobe Muse, which was, are you able to create responsive websites?
So the aim of responsive website is to target and provide the best experience for your mobile users or tablet or desktop users. But responsive design is just a technique, using CSS media queries. So with Muse, there is another approach where you design the experience you want for your mobile users, the experience you want for your tablet users, and the desktop users. And you just have to copy-paste the content, arrange the layout, and then, so it's not responsive design in terms that we are not using CSS media queries, but at the end, you provide a dedicated experience for your mobile users.
And it's intelligent enough that the correct version will display on the correct device according to the screen rate.
It will check the screen resolution, the dimension of the screen, and then provide the best experience. And also there are some tricks, so you can add an image that will automatically scale, 100%. So there are some tricks that really looks like responsive design, but at the end you really have a good experience.
Yeah, fantastic. And Photoshop, we always have some huge innovation in Photoshop, right? Who wants to pick up Photoshop?
That's funny because with Photoshop, I mean, it's an old product, right? But like every time they surprise us with cutting edge
Adobe Magic.
Yeah, the Adobe Magic. So maybe you can talk about the Adobe Magic stuff, but I want to talk about something in Photoshop. I'm really excited about it. Is Photoshop for layout designers. When you want to prototype a website, or even if you want to design an application, now we have included tons of new features for this guy with smart guides, live preview of the fonts, linked smart object. So if you design website, you really should check this new release of Photoshop. Amazing new features. But
And in the blur gallery, for example, we're introducing new filters for creating blurs, because you know, with these digital pictures that we take today, they're always so sharp and crisp and very precise, perfect.
Catch everything in focus.
Yeah. So basically, now we have a new motion blur filter and a new spin blur filter that will allow users to bring back some movement inside of these very static digital pictures. So I think that's very interesting. And then, as far as innovation and new things are concerned, we have been working a lot on mobile apps as well. So we've published not only Photoshop Mix that works with Photoshop, but also Sketch and Line, which are two sketching applications. And as a designer, I have to tell you that I really fell back in love with sketching, because this is something that, from when I was at school through the 90s and the 2000s, something I lost because I did everything on the computer right away. And now that I can use these two newly introduced devices, this is ink and this is Slide. It's basically a digital ruler and a digital pen. And this pen is pressure sensitive, and it really allows me to draw very, very precisely on these new sketching apps. And the cool thing is that sketching on the iPad allows me also to publish that work to Behance as work in progress, as finished work, but also send it directly to my Photoshop on the desktop or my Illustrator on the desktop and pick up the work right from there. So I think that's pretty innovative too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got your assets available to you via the pen as well,
haven't
you, which is amazing.
That's the other thing that I love about this Creative Cloud concept, is that with this 2014 release, we have now what we call a creative identity, a creative
profile.
A creative profile that follows me as a creative professional everywhere, on my devices, on my desktop, on my mobile phone, and from everywhere I have access to my cooler colors, my files, my sketches, brushes,
your
everything.
Fonts, your assets, everything.
Everything is part of my creative profile. And if I go to Adobe.com, for example, Adobe.com recognizes me through my Adobe ID and presents me with the things that I want to know about, because my work field. Of course, I can explore everything else as well, but Adobe.com is starting to know me as a creative professional, how I use the software, how what I do with it, and things like that. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And the hardware, the ink and slide, are going to be available later on in the year in the UK. They're available now in the States, you lucky things, but we will get them towards the end of the year. So I've also noticed something else on the desk here. I believe that's a 3D printed object, right? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, and also one of the main benefits of the cloud is that it creates this backbone in your creative process. So actually it started with an idea, sketching something on the iPad, and then we talk and we say, okay, maybe we can take the Creative Cloud logo and extrude the shape to create an espresso cup. And it started in Photoshop, thanks to Photoshop 3D. Maybe you can talk about it, because I'm not a 3D expert.
Photoshop is not truly a 3D application, but it has a lot of tools that allow me to create 3D objects from shapes that I create in Illustrator, for example. So I took Michael's sketch, I prepared it in Illustrator, and then took it into Photoshop as a smart object, and then extruded it in Photoshop. And there's really a lot of things you can do there. Like you can give it a texture, you can really form it and shape it as you want. And then when you go into the 3D printing features, that's when it gets interesting, because for those of us who don't have a 3D printer, there's services that start linking into Photoshop, and from Photoshop directly I can send to Shapeways or Sculpteo, and a few days later I get my object back,
that's a ceramic.
And that's ceramic.
That's white ceramic.
Because you don't necessarily have to print in plastic. You can print in ceramics,
like
in metal,
stone formations, and glass,
gold,
gold.
That's very, very expensive.
Copper as well, very expensive.
This one is gold, is 3,000 euros.
Okay.
So this is something that that's really fascinating. Like Michael said, is that with this backbone of applications that allow people to do things that they previously weren't able to do, like photographers doing video, or print designers like me doing websites. And this is what we call the mutations.
Now, like a traditional designer, thanks to technology and the Creative Cloud, you can become an object designer. Okay, and you can compete with Philip Stark.
Absolutely.
That's something.
I mean, that clearly is.
I'm scared. I can feel it. I'm scared.
Thank you so much for that, guys. So we just saw the 3D printing in Photoshop capabilities there, but there are also some other capabilities, for example, painting onto 3D objects and being able to place 3D objects into a 2D scene. We're going to take a look at just that now with this deep dive, hands-on Creative Cloud demo for Photoshop 3D.
Hi, my name is Richard Curtis. I'm a solutions consultant for Adobe with a focus on digital imaging. In the 2014 release of Creative Cloud, Photoshop got some great enhancements to the 3D engine, primarily 3D printing, 3D painting, and also faster 3D in general. Today we're going to look at bringing a 3D object into a 2D scene. We're going to paint it, and then look at other things that we can do with a 3D model. Okay, so let's go into Bridge and just open this base file in Photoshop. Now with 3D in Photoshop, I'm going to bring in an object from an external 3D application. So I'm going to go 3D, new 3D layer from File, and bring in a car. Now it's a fairly kind of cartoon car, but that's okay. Now everything in 3D in Photoshop is on the Move tool, which I've selected here. And for this, I'm just going to move this around just by dragging the car around. I can also move the lights at any point in time by selecting the infinite lights that are available as part of this scene. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is to start painting this car, and to do that I'm going to select all the elements that I want to create UV maps for. Now you can have UV maps as part of the model, but I'm going to get Photoshop to create them automatically. So I'm just going to go to the 3D menu and choose Generate UVs, and this will create me a nice 4K UV that I can then work on later. It will go through all the objects, unwrap them, and give me a diffuse layer for each one that I can then paint on in a few seconds. If I head on over to the Layers palette, I'm just going to work on a few areas and paint a few pieces just to show you how you can paint the 3D models in Photoshop. I'm going to focus on the headlights, the rims of the headlights, and the wheels for now. So I'm just going to go to the headlights themselves, and I'm going to move this into 2 up vertical. And I'm going to work on the UV map itself. I'm just going to reset my foreground and background colours because I want the headlights to be white. Then choose the paint bucket and paint this. All I need to do now is save that, and it will save it inside the 3D PSD. I'm just going to paint the outside of the headlights in a yellow colour. I'm going to move this into 2 up vertical as well and do the same thing. This time I'm going to use a colour picker and pick out, that's yellow, and then again do exactly the same thing. Of course I may want to paint directly on the 3D object itself, so what I can do is just paint the tyres. So I'm going to pick the front wheels to the right. Now I can move between the 3D model and the UV map, so at any point in time I can see exactly where I am on that UV map and actually on the 3D model itself. But in this example I'm going to go direct to the 3D model. So I'm going to paint on this tyre just using a nice large soft brush. I can then go in and paint other parts of the wheel as well. I'm just going to go in and pull the colour picker up, choose a grey, and I'm just going to paint the inside of the wheel just like so. And I want to paint this hubcap as well, so pick a darker grey for the hubcap, a different grey for the outside. There you go. I've overspilled a little bit over there, but I can correct that fairly easily. So you can see how easy it is to paint either on the UVs or paint on the 3D model itself. And I'm going to replace this car with a car I've pre-built. So here's what you can achieve if you really take a lot of time and get that exactly how you need it to be. So here's my car now. And you can see now it's on the grid. Now ideally what I want to do is put this on a background. Now I'm not a very good drawer, but we do have a chap in the other studio, Tony, who is a very good illustrator, and he said he's able to create me a background. But what I want to do first of all is explain to him what I want, and I can do that using Adobe Sketch. Now I can go in here and create a new project to start working on. Now what I can do is send that to Tony via the Creative Cloud by just pushing the share button on the iPad, and that will go direct to Tony. And let's give Tony a call and see if he's able to create me an illustration for my car. Hi Tony, how are you?
Hello.
I wonder if you could create me an illustration in Illustrator for my car.
Yes, Rich.
That'd be perfect. Now what I've done is I've created a sketch project on the iPad using Adobe Sketch, and I've sent that to you via the Creative Cloud, so you should have that now.
I've got that.
And if you're able to do that in Illustrator for me, make it really nice for this car, I think it'd be really cool. And then you could share it back to me using Creative Cloud, the new collaboration features in 2014 release, and we can do that.
Yep, not a problem. I'll start putting that together for you now. Okay, mate. Thanks. Bye.
Great. So Tony's going to work on that for me, and he will then share the asset with me using the shared folders and collaboration feature inside the Creative Cloud. So as soon as he's done that, I should get a notification via my Creative Cloud desktop application. And there you can see that Tony has now invited me to share the folder with him. So let's go and have a look at that. So if we open up the Creative Cloud application, you can see I have one new request. If I click on that request, I then see that Tony has invited me to the PS Cartoon Car folder. I can accept that, and immediately what starts to happen is the Creative Cloud will start to synchronize. Hey mate.
Hi Rich. Yeah, I've just sent that across to you in a shared folder, so you should get a notification any second now. You've got it. Brilliant. Okay, and if you let me know of anything that needs doing. Okay, yeah, butterflies. Yeah, I'll do that now. Yeah, of course, yeah, okay. All right, thanks.
Cool. Cheers, mate. Bye. Bye. So you can see there that I've accepted the invitation from Tony, and now I'm sharing that file. So now I can go and pull the background in. I'm going to use Photoshop Smart Objects to do that because it's an Illustrator file. So I'm going to File, Place Linked. I'm going to go to my Creative Cloud files, and you can see in here I should have Cartoon Car. And here is my backdrop, which is a lovely, very artistic representation of my sketch that I drew earlier on. So let's pull this in. Let's place that into the document, and let's do that. I'm just going to resize it slightly, make it a bit bigger, and also just change the crop size of the document to make it fit. And there we go. Now let's just put the car in the place. It's in the wrong place at the minute, so let's move that layer underneath the car. There we go. There's my car in the scene. Now what I can do is just pick the move tool once again and pick my 3D layer and move this into position. Now ideally I want to be able to create a vanishing point grid, so I can do that very, very quickly by going to the filter menu and choosing vanishing point grid. I'm going to create a very shallow grid just to pin this car to and move it around. So it actually forms a nice perspective for me, and just drag this out. And then what I can do is I can change the camera and I can choose the vanishing point grid. Now what I can do is just move this back into position, moving backwards and forwards, but also up and down by moving the camera and placing the car in exactly the right place. If I click on the mesh, I can change the size of the car, so make it fit in with the scene. I need to make sure it's snapped to the ground plane, so I can do that by going to the 3D menu, move object to ground plane. Next thing we need to do is just refine the way that this car sits in the scene, and we can do that by looking at the properties of the 3D object itself. So I'm just going to go to my 3D panel and just go up to the environment. There's a few things I need to change. One of them is the IBL, the image-based light, and I can do that just by going in and saying replace texture, and then put the same Illustrator document onto the IBL. Now I can move that around and get it where it needs to be for the lights to be working properly. Then I can go and move the lights and just make sure the lights are in the right place. I'll move it just over here. The next thing you can see is that the actual window itself has got a reflection of another scene, so we need to make sure that fits in this scene as well. So I'm just going to go to the window object in my 3D layer, and I have in the reflection a object. So I'm just going to remove that texture and replace that texture with the same one as the background, which is the Illustrator file. So everything matches up. So now that looks pretty good. And what we can do is test that with the final render. So I'm just going to use a marquee and just render this image into the scene. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that so far. But you know what? Tony's missed off an element of the scene. I think it could be a little bit more funkier, and I think maybe some butterflies. So let's give Tony a ring and see if he can add the butterflies in. Hey Tony, how you doing? Good. Yeah, just how you getting on with those butterflies, mate? Oh, cool. That'd be fantastic. I can't wait to see the scene with the butterflies included. Thanks, Tony. Cheers. Bye. Bye. Great. So Tony's going to update the Illustrator document on his side, and because that's synchronizing across the Creative Cloud using private folders, I then get that content directly onto my computer via the Creative Cloud desktop application. It will then update automatically into this scene as soon as my computer receives it. So what I can do to finish this scene off is to add some motion using the new path blur feature. So I'm just going to select these layers and create a smart object from them. And I'll use this to place the new filter. So filter blur gallery, path blur. Create a little bit of motion just on this car, not too much, just give that sense of realism. So I can dial the speed down, up and down to give me that sense of motion. So maybe just there a little bit. I can also change the blur shapes to give it some speed and direction. But I can press OK and apply that blur. Then using the masks, I can choose my brush using the B key and paint with black. So reset my foreground background palettes and then press the X key to paint with black. And I can just paint out the areas that I don't want to be part of this blur. And you can see they've got a nice effect using the new path blur feature to add a bit of motion to the car. Now the last thing I want to do is to go in and show you how to 3D print this car. If I wanted to do that, just open the smart object up and just go into the contents, and then using the move tool, select the 3D object itself, and then go to the 3D menu and go to 3D print. I can then choose a printer. So I could choose a local printer like a MakerBot or maybe an Ultimaker that we've now got, or even an MCore or a Z-Corp. Especially if we painted this, we might want to print it out in full colour. And then we can obviously print to an online service as well if you don't have a printer, using things like Shapeways or now the new Sculptio service to get some nicer materials. But then to print this, we can just press the print button, and Photoshop's going to create the scaffolding if we need it. It'll create a raft if we need it. It'll also plug any holes and correct the mesh just in case the mesh is not very good. And we're doing that in a couple of minutes, so we actually get a really nice printable object that should print out fairly easily from that printer. So hopefully you've seen now how you can import a 3D model into Photoshop, how you can paint it, blend it into a 2D scene with a vanishing point grid, and then also how you can 3D print the model from Photoshop as well. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
I'm joined in the tube now by Matthew Maxwell, Digital Creative Director at Imagination. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us.
That's my pleasure.
I really enjoyed your presentation. You mentioned in your presentation some software that will turn faces into sounds, right?
That's right.
I'd kind of love to hear what my face sounds like.
Shall we try it?
Yes, please.
Okay. So what do you need to do? What I need to do is turn the iPad on. What you need to do is hold it up like a mirror, like a look into the looking glass.
Okay.
And when the app finds your face and recognises it as a face, you hit the play button.
Okay, let's try and keep nice and still.
And now what it's going to do is it's going to measure the biometric markers on your face. It's going to turn those into musical form.
It's going. Hopefully you can hear this, guys. This is what I sound like. It's fantastic. fantastic. I love it.
Sounds beautiful.
I sound brilliant, don't I? Thank you very much indeed for that. So tell me a bit more about the software.
Well, the motivation for this was really the fascination that we have with faces. And the idea that artists have always been inspired by faces, and the face is the location of the identity of an individual. Yeah. But nobody's ever really thought about what the sound of that individual would be. So if your face had a unique sound, what would it be? Yeah. So the app is called, it's a prototype, it's a little experiment I'm playing with. It's called Solo, because it is specifically about your face, and it's a unique sound which only your face can produce.
Yes. It certainly is a unique sound. I was delighted to hear it, thank you. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is the Creative Cloud and the 2014 release, and the 4 pillars that are the main focus of this release, and they are Get Mobile, Always Connected, Work Faster and Cutting Edge. Now, how important are all of these things to your agency and how you work?
Imagination are a global agency, and our clients are global as well, so being able to collaborate and to connect all the very diverse skills and technologies that we use is essential. It allows us to work faster, it allows us to stay at the cutting edge, because that's where they expect us to be.
There have also been some huge industry shifts recently with mobile, cloud and social, meaning that we consume and also create content differently. How has this impacted your business?
It's really relevant in territories like China and the developing world, where in many cases they've just bypassed the internet altogether and gone straight to mobile. Right. So we do a lot of work with Jaguar and Land Rover in China, and increasingly they're asking us to communicate across mobile, and that means we have to use that technology, but also we have to adopt that methodology and understand how customers are using it, often in very, very diverse cultural setups.
Absolutely, all really important things that we're trying to keep pace with the Creative Cloud as well. So let me just find out a little bit more now about how you entered the industry. What's the secrets to your success?
I entered the industry when I got my girlfriend pregnant, actually, and I had to get a job. Before that I was an artist, before that I was working in the film business and just sort of bumming around. I came back to London in 1997, just as the internet was kicking off, and it seemed like the most interesting thing happening. It turned out to be true,
call.
Because it hasn't stopped. In fact, it's just getting bigger. So luck.
And what advice would you have to young people now who are kind of starting out in their careers?
I think if you're intending or you have ambition to be a creator, to be a maker, you need to start making things. Making anything. Making anything that you feel passionate about. Not worrying too much about whether it's something that people are asking for, whether you can sell it, whether anybody cares. Just exercise those muscles of creativity. Yeah,
that's interesting actually. Our photography luminary had very similar things to say. And so if somebody's coming to Imagination as a potential employer, what sort of things are you looking for?
We look for that. We look for an appetite to make things. You know, we're looking for people who are artisans, who actually want to create and have a passion for it. We're looking for people who have the ability to, and I hate the expression of think outside the box, but it really is true, because it's amazing how fast the train tracks get laid down, and we expect that we're meant to just carry on down them. But I think principally what we look for is a quality of emotional intelligence, because ultimately we have clients, and clients have stresses and expectations.
And that ability to communicate and understand all of those issues is really important, right?
Often to listen is more important than to speak. And this is something that I was speaking about earlier, how expression precedes speech. We learn how to read a face before we learn how to speak a language. Absolutely. And that's a skill which can carry you all the way through your career.
Absolutely. Some fantastic tips and insights there for all of you guys starting out in the industry. Matthew, thank you so much for your time and for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you for having me.
Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch, with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus, 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Photolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the hashtag #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.
So that's all we've got time for from the 2014 Creative Cloud Design Show. Don't miss out on the other shows, as we'll be celebrating creative industry talent as well as giving you even more insights into the Creative Cloud.
Do join us live for the web and video shows, or catch up with what you missed at adobe.com/go/create-now-UK. Thanks again for watching. We do hope you're feeling suitably inspired, and we hope to see you again soon.